Hi, in this video, I want to present to you my vision for learning and teaching in the digital age for the future of education. This message is destined for big tech companies like Microsoft or Google, Facebook, etc. And it's a request for funding in order to make that future happen. I'm looking towards experimental projects that I can be a part of in order to make this happen. Now, for my role, as a high school teacher that has taught in different countries, different subjects, and many different grade levels, I want to be able to offer my expertise, my observations, and my ideas. Um, I want to be able to contribute to the workforce of tomorrow. We all know that full immersion of technology is going to happen in schools. That's the direction we're heading in. I just want to help in making that happen earlier. So for my presentation, I'm going to divide this into 4 parts: teaching software, platform software, hardware, and gamification. So let's start with the first one, teaching software. So what do I mean by that? It's automatized, AI-backed, autonomous for learning and assessment of basic skills and knowledge. So if I can give a quick example of what I mean, if you think about Duolingo or Memrise or NetMaths, those kinds of programs that already exist, they're programs in order to kind of test you and give you quizzes as well and give you review lessons. And of course, they're intended to test the basic kind of knowledge or like vocabulary words, things like that. But I think that's definitely a very promising future that we have, and things can be made a lot better than what we have now. So, why do I think this is so important? First of all, for providing feedback. So, first thing here is when you are playing on these apps or going through these programs for learning, you get immediate feedback. You answer a question, you immediately find out if you have the wrong answer or the right answer. And a lot of the time, they tell you why it's the wrong answer, or they'll kind of give you a follow up exercise and say, "Oh, you got this wrong, so here's what maybe we can try now." And so it gives you very quick feedback, and that is something very important. There are numerous studies that show that getting quick feedback is critical to learning. The other aspect here is feedback for home. So um, in growing success, we know that we have to communicate to the parents at home, about the students' progress as a responsibility, but it's also something that is very beneficial for learners to have as many people as we can to create kind of a circle of support around them. So I think all these reports that get sent home, first of all, they can be automatized, they can be sent every day, for example, if need be, just like what has been done today, or it could be at the end of the week. It could be customized as well. And so that is great for providing feedback to both students and parents. Um, Autonomous learning. So what does this mean? It means that the students can learn, first of all, at their level. So you're more motivated, you know what the questions are, you're not being distracted by what the teacher is saying if they're not saying something that you understand, maybe because you missed a class or it's just not at your level, for example. Maybe it's faster, maybe it's slower, higher or lower level. Go at your own pace. So the wonderful thing about if you think about seminars that are given on YouTube is that you can pause the seminar. Sometimes things go too fast. Sometimes we're distracted. Have you ever started reading a book and you've read like 1 page or 2 pages and you just say, "I don't even know what I've read so far"? I just completely forget because you spaced out. Well, that happens, and that happens in class as well. And the great thing about video is that you can go back and you can review what you missed. So you're in complete control of your learning at the speed and at the level that you're learning. The other aspect here is continuous learning. So Obviously, throughout your life, I think the ideal is for people to want to learn and love learning throughout their whole life. So maybe you're in your 30s, maybe you're in your 50s or 60s, and maybe you're learning a new language. Maybe you're wanting to try some new recipes at home. Maybe you want to learn a new skill like coding. And I think that is something that we are seeing more and more these days, that ability to learn even after school. And that's a good habit that we want our students to have and to continue. And of course, you start with small steps for these things. And so these apps, these learning apps or programs that we could have, of course, they could be done at home, continued at home. And I think that would be super in making a transition towards that continuous learning that you can hopefully continue into adulthood and so on. I'm efficient. Why? Because all that basic information that can be repeated year after year, that is very um, simple or repetitive, can simply be done in one really well done course or exercise or a mix of both, and given out to students without having to repeat it year after year from the teacher's perspective. So there's a lot of time efficiency in that sense. But for the students as well, it's very efficient because it's a one on one approach, which is really how we tend to learn best when we have a focused attention of our teacher on to us and vice versa. It's personalized to our needs. So this the AI can obviously detect what has been learned, not learned, what needs to be worked on, and there's automatic grading that can be involved. So I'm not saying the whole grade for the whole class is determined by these programs, but perhaps a part of it. And so that can offload some of the work that the teacher would maybe need to do with pen and paper normally, which can take a lot of time. And I do know this. And this can leave extra room for more meaningful, full SAMR projects. So that's to say, not projects that just substitute technology, that don't just modify the assignment, or that just don't just simply augment the assignment, but that completely redefine those assignments. And those are the really the most interesting ones, and the ones that I think where the teacher has the most impact, and where ideally we'd spend all our time doing those, but they are very time costly. So by having those simple skills and knowledge learned on the side, if you will, it leaves more time for those more interesting projects. All right. So that's it for teaching software. Now, platform software. So what this means is different school boards are using different things. I'm using Teams right now. And I know some people use Google and whatnot, and I think they're fantastic. I think they're a great way to keep in communication with students and ask questions like on publication boards, and have like assignments that you can hand in, like homework sections. Those are great, and I think this is something to continue. I think there are still some kinks here and there to work out, and I think the concept of having a student portfolio section and a teacher portfolio section so that we can see have all the files uploaded there is going to make it easier for students to find that missing paper that explains that project, find more links to inflame their interest, maybe links on YouTube, and maybe other articles that were found on the internet. So I think by having these platforms accessible online, it's something that allows students to always have school essentially that are available to them. Um, all right. But the most important thing here, the most interesting, I think, is something that I inspired myself from Whiteboard, and it's I think Whiteboard is a fantastic tool, and I would simply like to see it go even further. So I've came up with a name here for it called Tableau, and I hope you'll like it. As you can see here, there's a list of features included in Tableau. So I'll give you an example of this image a little bit later on. But as you can see, there are tools for colors, graphs, shapes, and so on. You can create breakout rooms, so you can work and talk in a box. You're always in control of the permissions for audio, video, and so on. You can save your work, upload your work. So all these little boxes that you're seeing and the work that's done in them, you can save and upload them and share with others. There's features like raising your hand and spotlighting. You can copy paste anything, and you can zoom in and out of each individual box's universe. You can also allow split screen mode in order to do follow along the teacher. So let me show you more in detail here what we have. All right, so as you can see, it's a grid format. It's basically a whiteboard with grids, and each person can be assigned to a specific box in that grid. So we can see the names, like for example, right here we have Michael, here we have Lois, and maybe they're working all on the same thing or different things. They might be working together in groups for a project. We can see on the right side, Sally, John, and Joe are working on some kind of linear equation problem involving money. And there's three of these. You could add more with the plus sign. Since some students are maybe working alone, some students might be doing something for art. As you can see, Trent in the top right. Why is there a yellow circle? Because he's being spotlighted right now. So the teacher has used the spotlighting tool in order to maybe focus the class forcefully or at their will, just giving them a reminder, hey, your attention is being directed towards what Trent is doing. And he's maybe doing a lot of coloring with different tools for different sizes and shapes and so on. You have Zoe next to Trent that's working on her budgeting project, and maybe she's recording a sound bite, which she can insert in that whiteboard. You have Alice over here next to her. She has maybe access to some tools. As we can see, there's shapes, but there's maybe also things like graphs. Instead of having to draw the lines for graphs, which can take a long time, you can have some already pre-saved images that are useful, I'm thinking, for math, but you can also have things for languages or for art and really any subject. So a huge library possible. If we look at the bottom left here, we have Lois. She is doing some work on NetMaths or maybe Khan Academy. So we can follow along what's happening as the students are doing it. Maybe it's a share screen that they're doing inside that whiteboard. Michael right above is reading an article on the internet. We can see what he's scrolling through, what he's looking at. And we have also here at the bottom, we have Roger, who is raising his hand. Maybe he's a little shy, or maybe he would not normally raise his hand in class because he's not shy, but maybe he's simply afraid of disrupting the class. And so he has a question. He can just raise his hand. It dings the teacher for attention. The teacher can just click on the prompt to go immediately to that box and see what Roger needs help and write on it. And as well, each box is sound isolated. So whoever's in that box can talk and can listen. So all these boxes are little universes where they're isolated from each other, but possibly they could be mergeable as well by the teacher. And so really the sky is the limit here. But I think the point is that everything can be integrated. Everything can be put into your own box. And the teacher, of course, has control over seeing kind of everything that's happening here. So I call this Tableau. It's like an upgraded version of Whiteboard with a lot more features and the ability for the teacher to see everything that's happening at the same time. And I think that can be a really powerful tool because it's like instant teleportation in a sense, instant grouping. And so I think really this is the future, I think, for a blended learning, right? So think of all the projects that you could do if you can show what different teams are doing at the same time or individuals are doing at the same time. All right. I think that's going to be part one for now. I'll make a part two since we have a 15-minute time. Our next topic is going to be hardware. So let me explain that in just a